heart stone of Spian Th Moore. My name is Dara, and I used to believe that ghosts were just stories told to keep children from wandering off into the dark. I used to believe that the ancient world was sealed away behind glass in museums, a thing to be studied and photographed but never touched. I grew up in Phnom Penh, a city of roaring motos and shimmering new buildings that scrape at the sky. Our past is in the stone, I knew that, but I thought it was a silent past. I was wrong. The stone is not silent, it remembers, and sometimes it wakes up. My work, if you can call it that, is capturing Cambodia's fading memories for a small online magazine. I travel to places that are falling off the map, photograph them, and write a few hundred words. It's a good life. It lets me see the country my grandparents spoke of. It was on one of these trips, just outside of Siem Reap, that my modern world cracked open. I had spent the day at the main temples of Angkor, fighting for space with 1,000 other tourists, my lens filled with more selfie sticks than Apsara carvings. I was frustrated. I wanted something real, something untouched. That evening, over a bowl of steaming kai tea at a roadside stall, I mentioned this to my tuk-tuk driver, an old man named Pu Sarith. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, his eyes held a deep, quiet knowledge. He listened patiently, then took a long sip of his iced tea. He told me of a place, a bridge from the old empire days, deep in the jungle where most guides refused to go. Spian Th Moore, he called it, the stone bridge, not famous like the ones at Angkor Thom, but older, he claimed, and stranger. He said it was built over a deep, slow-moving river that the locals called Strung Kh Mao, the Black River. You can see it, Bongdara, he said, using the respectful term for an older brother, though I was half his age. But go during the day, go with the sun high in the sky. Do not let the shadows of the evening catch you there. Some places hold their breath after sunset. I should have listened. His warning was a kindness I was too arrogant to accept. The photographer in me, the fool in me, heard his words and immediately pictured it. An ancient bridge bathed in the soft, ethereal light of the moon. A perfect shot, a true discovery. So I paid him extra to take me there the next night. He argued, his brow furrowed with genuine concern. He spoke of the Neek, the great Naga spirits that guard such places. He said they demand respect. I just smiled, patted his shoulder, and told him I'd be quick. The ride out was long. The cheerful chaos of Siem Reap melted away behind us, replaced by the dark, dense walls of the jungle. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of night-blooming jasmine and the damp, earthy smell of decay. The only sound was the puttering of the tuk-tuk engine and the rising, deafening orchestra of a million cicadas. When the path became too narrow, Pu Sarith stopped. He wouldn't go any further. He pointed a trembling finger down a barely there trail. The bridge is that way, maybe a 10-minute walk. Please, Bong, be quick and touch nothing. Leave only your footprints. I grabbed my camera bag, gave him a confident nod I didn't entirely feel, and stepped into the oppressive darkness of the jungle. The moonlight barely pierced the jungle canopy, casting everything in a ghostly, silver-blue light. Great, gnarled roots snaked across the path like petrified pythons, and the air was so humid it felt like I was breathing water. The cicadas were so loud it was like a physical pressure against my eardrums. And then I saw it. It emerged from the gloom like the skeleton of some colossal beast. Spian Th Moore, a wide, arched bridge made of enormous blocks of laterite, the red volcanic stone weathered to a deep, mossy black. On either side, the balustrades were carved into the bodies of 7-headed Nagas, their stony hoods flared in a silent, eternal warning. It was breathtaking, and Pu Sarith was right. It felt different from Angkor. There was no sense of peace here, no spiritual calm. There was only age and a profound, waiting stillness. I walked to the center of the bridge, my boots echoing unnervingly on the ancient stone. The river below, Strung Kh Mao, was just as he described, sluggish, black and silent. It didn't seem to flow so much as it seemed to lie there, a strip of polished obsidian reflecting the fractured moonlight. I took my photos, but my hands felt clumsy. The air was heavy, charged. I felt watched, not by an animal in the trees, but by the bridge itself, by the blank stone eyes of the Naga guardians. I was about to leave when my foot nudged something. I looked down. It was a small, fist-sized stone, covered in the same dark green moss as the rest of the bridge. It must have broken off from the railing centuries ago. It fit perfectly in my palm, cool and strangely dense, like it weighed more than it should. A harmless souvenir from a forgotten place. That's what I thought, a small piece of history. I pocketed the stone. Instantly, the deafening chorus of a million cicadas fell into an absolute, suffocating silence. One moment the jungle was screaming with life, the next it was as if the world had gone deaf. The silence was so total, so unnatural, it was a sound in itself, a ringing, crushing void. My heart hammered against my ribs, my skin went cold. And then I felt it. A low, resonant groan vibrated up through the soles of my boots. It wasn't the sound of shifting age, of a bridge settling. This was deeper, more organic. It was the sound of something immense stirring within the laterite blocks themselves. The stone beneath my feet felt like the ribcage of a sleeping giant that had just drawn a breath. The humid air, thick with the scent of frangipani and rot, suddenly felt crushing, as if the weight of centuries was pressing down upon my shoulders alone. Panic, pure and primal, seized me. I had to get out. From the river below, a single massive bubble broke the surface. It was the size of a car tire. It burst with a wet, plopping sound, and a stench rolled up from the water. It smelled of river mud and stagnant water, yes, but also something else, something far, far older. The smell of a tomb opened for the first time in 1,000 years. I didn't run, I couldn't. My legs were locked in place. I just stood there in the center of the ancient bridge, in the dead silence, with a cold, heavy stone in my pocket, realizing I had made a terrible, terrible mistake. The spell broke when I heard Pooh Sarith shouting my name from the edge of the jungle. His voice, thin and terrified, cut through the crushing silence. That was all it took. I turned and fled, stumbling over roots and vines, not daring to look back. I didn't stop until I burst out of the trees and practically fell into the back of his tuk-tuk. He didn't ask what happened, he saw it on my face. He just started the engine and drove, faster than I thought the little vehicle could possibly go. The jungle seemed to press in on us, its darkness deeper, more menacing than before. And the whole way back to the lights of Siem Reap there was no sound. Not a single cricket, not a single cicada. The jungle was holding its breath, and I knew with a certainty that chilled me to my very soul that it was holding its breath for me. Back in the sterile safety of my guest house room, I tried to rationalize it. The silence of the cicadas, a natural phenomenon, maybe a predator passed by, the groan of the bridge, old stones settling, the smell, swamp gas, plausible, logical explanations for a man who believed in a logical world. But I couldn't explain the feeling of a vast and ancient attention suddenly focused entirely on me. I took the stone from my pocket and set it on the small wooden table beside the bed. In the harsh electric light of the room, it looked mundane, just a piece of old, mossy rock. I showered, trying to wash the jungle's oppressive humidity from my skin, but a deep, bone-aching chill had settled into me that the hot water couldn't touch. I tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. I lay in the dark, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the distant sounds of the town. But beneath those familiar noises, I began to hear something else. A faint, low groan, the same sound from the bridge. It was so quiet at first, I thought it was my imagination, the memory of the sound replaying in my mind. But it grew, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate up through the foundations of the building. And with it came another sound, a wet, dragging noise like something heavy being pulled across a stone floor. It sounded like it was coming from right outside my door. I lay frozen, my eyes wide in the darkness. My heart pounded a frantic rhythm against the silence. Drag, groan, drag, groan. It went on for what felt like an eternity. I imagined a huge, waterlogged crocodile or some monstrous beast pulling its immense weight down the hallway. Then silence, a silence as absolute and terrifying as the one in the jungle. I didn't sleep a wink. When the first rays of dawn pierced the curtains, I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, clean and brightly lit. Nothing was there. I opened the door, nothing. But on the tile floor, leading from the direction of the stairs and stopping directly in front of my door, was a thin, wet trail. A trail of dark, slimy river mud, dotted with fragments of green moss. And the air in the hallway was thick with that same smell from the river, the smell of mud and of the ancient, disturbed deep. I slammed the door and leaned against it, my body trembling. The stone. It had to be the stone. I looked over at the table where I had left it. A dark, wet patch had seeped from it, staining the wood. The stone itself seemed darker. The moss on it looked greener, fresher, as if it had been recently watered. My phone rang and I nearly screamed. It was my editor from Phnom Penh, a cheerful, no-nonsense woman named Soria. She was asking about my photos, my deadline. Her voice, so full of normal, everyday concerns, sounded like it was coming from another planet. I mumbled something about technical difficulties, about needing another day. I couldn't tell her that I was being stalked by a 1,000-year-old bridge. I knew I couldn't stay in that room. I had to talk to Poo Sarith. He had warned me. He knew something. I found him at the same roadside stall, nursing a morning coffee. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His eyes were bloodshot, and he flinched when he saw me approaching. I sat down, my hands shaking as I tried to explain what had happened. The silence, the groan, the smell, and then the sounds in the guest house, the trail of mud. When I finished, he just stared into his coffee cup for a long time. "You took something, didn't you, Bongdara?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "From the bridge, a piece of it." I didn't have to answer. He saw the guilt on my face. He let out a long, weary sigh, a sound of profound sadness. "That bridge," he began, his voice low, "is not just a bridge. It is a lock, a seal, a K-bark. The old kings, the ones who commanded magic and spoke with the spirits, they built it for a reason. The strung Khmau is not a normal river. It is a wound in the earth, and in that wound something sleeps." He told me the story, a story the grandmothers in his village still used to frighten children. He said that centuries ago, a great Neek, a Naga spirit of the river, turned on the people. It was not one of the benevolent water spirits that bring rain and prosperity. This one was ancient, corrupt. It grew jealous of the kingdom on its banks. It began to demand tribute, not of gold or rice, but of life. A child every full moon taken by the black water. The kingdom withered in fear. Finally, the greatest monks and Brahmin priests of the Angkorian court came together. They could not kill the spirit. It was as old as the river itself, so they trapped it. They used their magic, their prayers, and their knowledge of the earth to build the bridge. Every stone was laid with a powerful mantra, every carving a piece of a binding spell. The 7-headed Nagas on the railings were not just decoration. They were guardians, their stone eyes charged with holding the seal shut. "The bridge," Poo Sarith said, his eyes locking with mine, "is its tomb, its cage, and it has been sleeping there for 1,000 years, dreaming of its freedom." My blood ran cold. "The stone," I whispered, my mouth dry. "There are certain stones," he said, leaning closer, "that are like the heart of the spell. Key stones, locking stones. If one is removed, the lock is weakened. The seal begins to fail. The sleeper begins to stir. You didn't just take a rock, Bong. You took a piece of the cage door." The dragging sound, the groan, it wasn't something coming for the stone. It was the spirit, the prisoner, testing its weakened cage, reaching out, and because I held the key, it was reaching for me. "What do I do?" I begged him. "Poo Sarith, what do I do?" He looked at me with pity in his old eyes. "You must take it back. You must put it back exactly where you found it. You must ask for forgiveness, and you must pray that forgiveness is granted." He paused, and a new, terrible fear entered his expression. "You must do it tonight. Once the sun sets again, its influence will be stronger. It might not let you." That night the dreams started. They were more vivid, more real than any dream I'd ever had. I dreamt I was at the bottom of the strung Khmau, the Black River. There was no light, only an immense crushing pressure. I couldn't move. My limbs were trapped in thick, cold mud. I tried to scream, but my lungs filled with black water that tasted of silt and something metallic, like old blood. The groan was all around me, a constant physical presence that vibrated through my bones. I could feel the prisoner. It wasn't a snake, not a monster in the traditional sense. It was a consciousness, vast, ancient, and filled with a cold, patient malice. It knew I was there. It was tasting my fear. I saw the bridge from below, a ceiling of black stone holding back a sky I couldn't see. And I realized with a surge of absolute horror that I was not alone in the mud. There were others. Pale, silent figures, their eyes wide and empty, their bodies preserved by the cold, anoxic water. The children from the legend. The tributes. They were part of the spirit now, part of its prison. I woke up gasping, my clothes soaked in sweat, the sheets tangled around my legs like weeds. The groaning sound was back, louder this time, coming from the walls of my room. The smell of the river was so strong it was gagging. I looked at the stone on the table. It was glistening now, as if it were sweating. The puddle of dark water around it had grown, and in the dim light from the window, I could have sworn I saw something moving within its mossy crevices, something tiny and pale like a worm. The haunting was no longer subtle, it was an assault. During the day I saw things, a long serpentine shadow slithering at the edge of my vision. In the reflection of a shop window I saw my own face, but for a split second my eyes were wide, black and lidless, like the eyes of a fish from the deepest trench. The water from the tap in my bathroom ran black for a few seconds, smelling of mud. I felt a crushing weight on my chest, a constant pressure, as if a stone block was laid upon me. I was exhausted, but I was terrified to sleep. The dream was waiting for me. The black water was waiting for me. Pu Sarith found me a small shrine, where a kind-faced old monk tied a blessed red string around my wrist and gave me a small amulet of a seated Buddha. "This will offer some protection," the monk said, his voice gentle. "It will shield your spirit, but it cannot fix what has been broken. The debt must be paid, the stone must be returned." As dusk began to settle, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a profound and terrible dread filled me. Pu Sarith agreed to take me as far as the path again, but no further. He gave me a powerful flashlight and a bag with some offerings, incense, a few lotus flowers, a small bottle of rice wine. "When you put the stone back," he instructed, his voice grave, "place these offerings on the bridge, bow 3 times. Ask the guardian Neek and the spirit of the river for forgiveness. Show them you understand your mistake. It is all you can do." The ride back to the jungle was a journey into my own personal hell. Every shadow seemed to leap and writhe. The air grew cold and heavy long before we left the town. And this time there were no cicadas. The jungle was waiting for me in perfect predatory silence. When we reached the trailhead, I got out of the tuk-tuk, my legs feeling like lead. Pu Sarith looked at me, his old face etched with fear. "May the Buddhas walk with you, Bong Dara." Then he was gone, and I was alone with the darkness. I switched on my flashlight. The beam cut a sharp, lonely cone through the oppressive blackness, making the jungle on either side seem even more infinite and menacing. The path felt different tonight. The roots seemed to have shifted, twisting into new, grasping shapes. The air was dead still, not a single leaf stirred. The only sound was my own ragged breathing and the thumping of my heart. The smell hit me first, that thick, cloying stench of ancient river mud. It was everywhere now, as if the whole jungle was slowly being submerged by the strung KH-Mao. Then I heard the groan. It wasn't distant anymore. It was all around me, emanating from the very ground I walked on. The earth itself was groaning in sympathy with the prisoner. With every step I took towards the bridge, the vibration grew stronger, traveling up my legs into my chest, shaking me from the inside out. I finally broke through the trees and saw it. The bridge. It looked different tonight. The moonlight was swallowed by a thick, unnatural fog that swirled up from the river, clinging to the ancient stones. The fog was alive with shifting, serpentine shapes. My flashlight beam landed on the Naga statues, and my blood froze. From the corners of their stone eyes, a thick black substance was weeping, carving dark trails down their weathered cheeks. It looked like mud or black, viscous tears. The guardians were weeping. The seal was breaking. I had to cross. I had to get to the center of the bridge, to the spot where I took the stone. It felt like the longest walk of my life. With each step onto the bridge, the groaning intensified into a deep, guttural growl. The laterite blocks vibrated so violently, I feared the entire structure would collapse into the black water below. The crushing pressure I'd been feeling for days intensified 100-fold. It was a physical force, trying to push me to my knees, to force me down against the stone. It felt like the weight of the whole sky was on my back. I hunched over, gasping for breath, my vision swimming. The fog from the river was coiling around my ankles now, cold and wet. I could hear whispers in it. Ancient, guttural words in a language I couldn't understand, but whose meaning was perfectly clear. Rage, hunger, and a desire for freedom that had festered for a millennium. I looked down at the river. The surface was no longer still. It was churning, thick black water heaving as if something colossal was thrashing in the depths. I could see the pale shapes of the drowned children from my dream, swirling in the vortex, their empty eyes staring up at me. I reached the middle of the span. I could see the small, darker patch on the railing where the stone had been. My goal was right there, just a few feet away. But the force pressing down on me was immense. The entity knew what I was trying to do. It was fighting me with all its ancient power. My flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into the disorienting gloom of fog and fractured moonlight. The whispers grew louder, coming from all directions. The groaning became a roar that shook my teeth. From the river, a huge, dark tendril of water and mud, shaped like a serpent's head, erupted from the surface. It rose high into the air, its form indistinct in the darkness, and lunged towards me. I screamed, stumbling backward, fumbling in my pocket for the stone. My fingers closed around it. It was ice cold and vibrating with a malevolent energy. I pulled it out. As soon as the stone was in the open air, the tendril froze, hovering a few feet from my face. The whispers stopped. The groaning lessened. All the energy of the place seemed to focus on the small rock in my hand. It wanted it back, not in the bridge, in the river. It was trying to trick me. To tempt me to drop it, to complete the breaking of the seal. I fought against the crushing weight, every muscle screaming in protest. I took one step, then another, my arm outstretched. I could feel the cold radiating from the empty spot on the railing. It felt like a wound. With the last of my strength, I shoved the stone into the hole. It clicked into place with a sound that was both perfectly natural and supernaturally final. For a heartbeat, there was an impossible silence. Then a shriek, a sound of pure, thwarted rage that didn't come from any single place, but from the stones, the water, and the air itself. It was a sound of a cage door slamming shut on a prisoner who had tasted freedom. The bridge gave a final, violent shudder that nearly threw me off my feet. The black tendril of water collapsed back into the river with a deafening splash. The unnatural fog dissolved as if it had never been there. The crushing weight on my shoulders vanished. And then, one by one, the cicadas started to sing again, the sound of life returning to the jungle. I didn't wait to give the offerings. I didn't pray for forgiveness. I just ran. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the dirt path, gasping and sobbing, the sound of a living jungle, a beautiful, welcome symphony around me. I have been back in Phnom Penh for 6 months now. I live on the 14th floor of a modern apartment building. I quit my job. I don't go out into the countryside anymore. I try to surround myself with concrete and glass and the noise of the city, anything to forget the silence of the jungle. But I'm not the same. Something came back with me, not the spirit itself, but an echo of it, a stain. Sometimes, when the city is quiet late at night, I can still feel that low vibration, that groan from deep within the earth. I'm always cold, a deep chill that no blanket can warm. I have developed a fear of still water. A puddle after a rainstorm, a glass of water left on a table. I see things moving in the reflections. And the smell of river mud and decay. It comes and goes without warning. I'll be sitting in a coffee shop and suddenly I'll be overwhelmed by it, and I have to run outside, gagging, into the exhaust-filled air of the city. The red string the monk gave me is still on my wrist, faded now. I don't know if it's protecting me or if it's just a reminder of my arrogance. The worst part, though, is the dreams. They are less frequent now, but they still come. I am back in the cold, black water of the strung KH-Mao, but I am not a visitor anymore. I am one of the pale, silent figures trapped in the mud, and I am looking up at the bridge at the seal. I can feel the ancient, malevolent consciousness all around me. It is sleeping again, but it is aware. It is waiting, it knows my name. And sometimes in the dream I feel it when it tests the lock. It pushes against the stones, and one of them, a small, fist-sized stone, glows with a faint, sick light. It's the stone I returned, but it's different now. A part of me is in it. A part of my life force, my spirit, was the price for putting it back. I didn't just mend the cage, I became a part of the lock. So let me offer you this warning. If you travel, if you explore the old and forgotten places of this world, remember that you are a guest. Do not take souvenirs. Do not desecrate what you don't understand. Some doors are meant to remain closed. Some sleepers are meant to be left to their dreams. Because if you wake them, they might just pull you into the nightmare with them. And you will find, as I did, that there are some things you can never truly leave behind. There is a darkness that, once it has your scent, will follow you home, even to the 14th floor, even into the silence of your own heart.